click, click, click. That's right. Click, click. I've just gotten home from dinner with Joyce's family. There we go. I'll hit the right button yet. Click, 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 click. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a delayed and rushed Wacky Weekend Lite Artie show without Artie. And I literally just got home. Made a quick pit stop and then came down here and trying to get everything set up. I guess I predicted right. I can't go out to eat with Joyce's family without the food being late. I don't know what it is, but anytime we have the family go out to eat, it takes an exorbitant amount of time for the food to come in. So I delayed the show by 15 minutes and yeah, I got in with 3 minutes to spare. So hello to Randall, if you're still in the background, and to Graham from Leamington Station, Chris from Bally's 56, Alan Reynolds from Buckland Junction. I saw you were live today. Unfortunately, I was wrapped up in a million things, so I couldn't pop in and say hello. Simon from SJ, our buddy Simon from SJ Dusty, nice to see you. I hope you've been well. Don't see as much as we once did. Yeah, so I never have anything prepared for this show. My job was always to be the second banana on the show and to provide occasional comic relief. It's really tough to come up with topics because my live streams, I just run my trains and wing it, and I hate for this to just be a repeat of my Friday live streams. But anyhow, what I'm going to do, if I can get to it, is I will immediately pop this up, and then whoever wants to can come in and say hello and come on up on camera if you want to and just chat, because otherwise I don't have a lot to chat about. Joyce came up with a good idea on the way here, but I didn't have time to set it up. She's like, well, you can talk about what international trains do you have? Like if you're in the UK, do you have trains from other countries? If you're in Australia, you know, Artie, when we visited him in Australia and talking to him since, he's been getting some German. And of course, I have German, and that includes West German and East German. So before the reunification in 1990, that would be two separate countries. But then I have Austrian and Czech. And now I have Italian. And I don't have Swiss. I do not have Swiss. And yeah, it's so I do have a lot. Now, obviously, the dominant form, but and dare I forget, I have United Kingdom or Great Britain. And then I have whichever other one. No, I think that's it. Although I could split it up to England and Scotland because I have ScotRails and then all these locomotives that were based in England. So yeah, so that's a lot of countries I have. So how about you guys? Hey, Hot Dog Pilot Andy, how are you? Glad to see you here. Hope you are well. I'm gonna slide things around here now that I've greeted everybody and put this on my main control page. But yeah, this past week, finally being healthy again, I obviously I showed this to you a couple of weeks ago, and then I've just been modifying it. But I showed this on the Friday live stream as well as a video I posted Thursday. I built a little display area over there for all the stuff I got from Herb. And I have been, yesterday and today, I have finally been just taking everything Herb sent me and reorganizing all my trains and getting stuff together. So all of Herb's stuff, almost all Herb's stuff is over on that wall or in the credenza below it, except for the cars that I will use a lot, which are stored here below me. All good, package intact. Okay. Randall is in the basement, so I'll bring him up. And Randall is on his work site. Hey, Randall, how you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good, Anthony. How about you?
I'm stressed and out of breath. I've been running ragged here.
Really?
And so you're waiting for the crew?
Yeah, they got a bunch of stuff tied down right now, so we're kind of waiting for everything to blow up right now. So,
oh, okay. Well, it's nice to have you here as always. And if a train comes by, hey, we get some live rail fanning. And let me see who just came in. Stormy Sky Rail Productions, who do such awesome rail fanning videos. If you haven't checked out, if you're into rail fanning, Stormy Sky, they do high-end productions of predominantly northern U.S. and Canadian freight, although Ohio counts as what we call the North Coast of America because we're on the Great Lakes, but I think of Minnesota, Wisconsin as north, or the Northeast, which is Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. And then, of course, the Northwest, Washington, and, the border states of Canada. So now, from what I understand, Attila, is that Artie's had a couple of issues with his new Austrian trains, from what I understand. Because the biggest project I'm working on is, if anybody watched my live stream on Friday, I was running that ICE-1 that has the German flag stripes on it. And Herb never was able to finish the train. So I am going to do these. But these have very special instructions. And believe it or not, even though it's in German, I'm having a little bit of a hard time making sure I'm getting the instructions, because these are water-based decals, or decals, as some people call them. In America, we say decals. But I'm going to do that.
Well, I say that we got a train coming, I think.
Oh, well.
I think. I don't know. I see lights. But...
I see lights. All right, so we could have a train coming, or we might be witnessing the first alien abduction live on camera.
No, it's a train. I hear it. So no, sorry, Anthony. No alien abductions tonight.
Well, maybe the aliens have abducted the train, and we'll get the best of both worlds. Hi, Adam from Flamo Chairman. Well, the UK crew is well represented today, and at least one Aussie. We got 20 people in the background. Uh-oh, quick. Let's make this big. Bing. All right, live. It's a BNSF. Go figure.
Mm-hmm. Well, the new motors, too.
So what loco is that?
Those are the new ES44 ACHs, the heavies, they call them.
Ah, okay.
So I don't know what they're doing. They're stopping for some reason.
It's the aliens. Run! Drive away! Start your car and go! See, look at that. He's waving out. He says, there's a human now. He just opened his window and there's nobody in there. Or maybe, did he close his window? Hey, Rayron, how are you? And
hey, Rayron.
Welcome in.
And hey to everybody in the chat, too.
We are rail fanning. Is it rail fanning if the train isn't moving?
That could be.
because I, being still a relative novice to this entire hobby world, am not really a rail fanner. Although we're becoming rail fanners because whenever Joyce and I go to Germany, she starts pointing out trains and go, honey, what's that train? What's that one? What's that one? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a new one. Or I can probably say that's a 185, dear. That's a diesel freight hauler. But, it's moving again.
Yeah, they must just had to stop for something. There must be a train sitting ahead of them or something.
Good Sunday morning to you, Monsville. Welcome in. But I still don't understand the difference between rail fanning and train spotting. Is rail fanning you just like to watch the trains go by, where train spotting you have specific trains you're looking for?
All right, you get to look at the other new motor. It's on there, the Tier 4 version.
Burlington Northern Santa Fe, BNSF. Burlington and Northern and Santa Fe.
They used to be called Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They're just called BNSF now.
Yeah. Well, somebody was asking what the BNSF was.
Yeah, their full name was Burlington Northern Santa Fe, but I think in 05 when they created that particular scheme, they just changed it to BNSF.
And I am old enough to remember when it was Burlington and Northern and Santa Fe. And then it became Burlington Northern, and that became Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
Well, see, this line here is a former Frisco line.
Aha.
So it started out as Frisco, then it became Burlington Northern, now it's BNSF. So,
I can't keep straight with all these corporate mergers.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep all that up. Of course, now they got Montana Rail Link as part of their.
I have
now, so now we get MRL engines every once in a while. So
I have the amazing ability. I know all the German rail companies and where they operate and what their start. The private regional commuter traffic and such, but America, no. And even with 2 trips to the UK now, I know some of the company names, but I don't know where the regions. Like, we bought our tickets to get from London to Milton Keynes. We bought them from Avanti West Coast. And it was, and then their tickets said that the train would be on a Eastern Midlands, or was it Western Midlands? I can't remember which one. And then it wound up being a third company, London Northwest. Yeah, it was LNW. It was it was LNR, London Northwestern as one word, railway. So it was weird. We bought it through Avanti. They told it was going to be this train, and that was actually a third company train. Yep, that's Thayer. That's all I know about where we're at right now. It's Thayer.
Yep, this is technically the halfway part of the Thayer subdivision. That's how it gets its name.
But again, even in the live stream, nobody has officially answered. Yes, it's still a kind of rail fanning. I don't know the difference between rail fanning and train spotting. Apparently, there's a difference, but I don't know what it is. Although I think rail fanning should just replace it and the word train spotting just be gotten rid of. Because train spotting sounds boring. Like, what are you doing? Train spotting. There's a train. I spotted it. Okay, we're done here. Where rail fanning, it's like, oh, there's a train. Let's watch it. So I like that. I think rail fanning is a better term.
These trains here, they're
people
pretty good size.
What's that?
I was just saying, these trains here are pretty good size. They're about 135 cars, or about 7,500 feet long. So they're pretty good size. There's the end.
That's a mile and a third. Oh, there's a little bit of weight at the end there. 2 more at the end.
Yep.
Well, that's what I thought, Graham. That's how I figured it. I always figured that train spotting was you're looking for specific trains. But even the guys that were train spotters, it was more like they knew certain trains were coming through, but they were filming all those trains. Well, the 10:15 from Gloucester should be coming through any minute now. Joy says hello to everybody. Surely you have to be.
No, they are basically new.
And I agree, you'd have to be a rail fan to train spot.
And by the way, the northbounds are actually all empties. Only the southbounds are loaded.
Just saw a 2-mile empty auto rack train on Jawtooth the other day. Well, there you go. But I don't have the desire to go out to tracks and watch train go by. My rail fanning is limited strictly to if I'm traveling somewhere and we arrive at a station and we're not in a hurry to look around and see what different types of trains there are. For example, I love the big hubs in Germany, where like in Hamburg, excuse me, where we go up there and you will just see trains from 4 or 5 different countries and 10 or 15 different companies all in the Hamburg station, and kind of the same in Hanover or in Munich. So I really that's my limit, but I don't go up to Toledo and try to film Amtrak or somebody coming through. Even if I did, it would suck because okay, the Amtrak's due at 2:00. Well, it might arrive at 1:00 and be gone by 2, or it might arrive at 3:30, 4:00, 5:00, 6:00. It could be an hour early or 3 hours late. And that's how I am, Graham. My rail fanning is watching my trains go around. And the thing is, doing a 3-hour live stream, as I do every Friday, I watch my trains go around, and I babble while I'm doing, because I talk to myself if I weren't doing the live stream. So I just talk and there's people in the room, and that gives me excuse to be talking. But so does anybody here have multiple nationalities of rail? Like I've got Canadian and American stock or something like that.
I've got, you talking about like in the model train collection?
Yeah.
See, I got a couple pieces of Mexico trains, KCS to Mexico, and Ferromex. Then I got the CP rail and CN engines. So,
yeah, and I saw that, Monsville. I saw, because I knew you had Mexican, Randall. But yeah, Monsville says she made a YouTube short of the QR commuter train, which I did watch and comment on because it's kind of cool. I do like to see the types of trains, and both commuter and longer distance. It was kind of cool to see some of the different Australian trains as we went along and stopped at. I forget, Artie, what was the one station we stopped at? It was early morning on our way down to Melbourne. We stopped off at it, and it was this classic old station, because we had looked at Goulburn briefly, but there was this other one we stopped at. Oops, if Artie were only here to tell us what it was. So Dirk has multinational: UK, USA, Australia, France, Germany, Sweden, Italy. That's awesome. Hot Dog Pilot has UK, US, 2 German, 1 Dutch. That with that Koploper. So yeah, I have UK, or I could split it between England and Scotland, and then Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, United States with my ICE Amtrak. Italy now, Czech Republic. Technically, I've got 2 containers. I got 2 containers from Australia. Does that count? I got two. It's not even container wagons. It's just the containers, 2 Australian container wagons. But if that counts, I've also got then China represented. A couple of those are Chinese companies. That counts. But so yeah, I am United States, the UK, which is 4 countries rolled up. Is there any railway in the UK active that originally was was Western Midlands originally a Welsh rail line? Was GWR originally the Great Welsh Railway? I know it wasn't, but you know what I'm saying. Oh, I could rail fan in Toledo. There's just nothing to see. Occasionally you get the freighters coming through. Actually, we get freight trains going through Toledo a lot through the day, but I'm just, A, I'm not into freight trains, and B, I'm really just not a train spotter or a rail fanner. I'm a train observer. Hey, CMD models, South Africa. Yep, Japanese, Germany, Austria, Czech, Swiss, Hungarian. I don't have Swiss. Even when Joyce and I rode a train into Switzerland, it was a German train. Even going to Rhine Falls, it was a German train. Into Basel, Basel Bad, we rode a German train, and then to go to Rhine Falls, it was a Deutsche Bahn train, not a Swiss train. And it was much cheaper than if we had ridden the Swiss train too. But Basel Bad, there's the city of Basel, which is on the border between Germany and Switzerland. Basel is inside Switzerland. It has 2 train stations, and the more northerly one is Basel Bad, and that one is basically treated as a Deutsche Bahn station, and the Swiss railways only go through it to go on the rest of the way through Switzerland, like the things going from Germany all the way down to central and southern Switzerland and on to Italy will go through that one and then stop at Basel Hauptbahnhof. LMS also associated with Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. Okay, cool.
And that's the ammo I have to mute and turn my camera off, so I got to run to Kosh and get a crew. So I'll be back in a few minutes.
All righty. We will minimize you for now until you're ready to come back on. There's something about the Romans, but plus Irish Southern locos. Oh, that's cool. Because I like that. It's very close to the French border too. It is very close to the French border as well, Alan. But yeah, it's because it's right at the point where France, Germany, and Switzerland all meet. But yeah, it is Germany, and then Basel is the first city coming from Germany into it's one of the only real crossing points between Germany and Switzerland. Otherwise, you have to go down and around Austria and then come across that way. So, but yeah, Basel is on the border between, I'm trying to remember what the little German town is, because we were in Freiburg for a week. So a couple of times we went down to Basel, once to go over to the Rhine Falls and once to just visit Basel. But yeah, Switzerland's expensive. The Maryland DC Justice League, does that count? Everything counts. That's interesting. Are Queensland and New South Wales? I didn't think they were. I thought they were all linked. I thought for sure they were all linked. Speaking of links, I'm going to pop this link if anybody wants to come up on camera and join in. But yeah, so it is. I'm pleased that, you know, once my layout went multinational, because the first non-German train I bought was the Austrian, well, actually was a Czech Railjet Loco, and then I got some Pico cars to go with it, and then I got the Austrian Railjet. So my first 3 trains ICE3, and then I got the Regiobahn with the Class 146-2 locomotive. And then I got the Nordwestbahn 648. And then, I got the Czech Railjet. And then I got the Austrian Railjet. Well, hello, Marty. How are you? Welcome in. The rail crew from the sunny Gold Coast of Queensland. It's wait till you're properly dressed. Okay, then. All right, Graham, good night. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello and chatting with us for a bit. Joyce and I continue to hold you high in our esteem. It was wonderful to hang out with you, and we're going to say that a few more times when we see you, Graham. But it was very special for us. We're really appreciative of you. So take care and have a good night. Now, fortunately, next week we'll all be back on track because tonight, into the early morning hours, is when we finally go on to go back an hour, and so we'll be back lined up because normally where I'm at is 5 hours behind the UK and 6 hours behind Western Europe. Also 5 hours behind Portugal, and I think parts of Spain, I think, are on the same time frame as the UK. It was. But that's my rail fanning is we get into certain towns and bigger stations, and we just like to look at, who all has cool, what cool trains are here is probably the best way to put it. And I don't know if I would have that one on here or not. Because when we went to Hamburg last year, and it was still only last year, I'm looking for a picture here, so I might have to go somewhere else and see if I can put this pic up. I just got a warning that StreamYard said they were having trouble uploading some pictures. I think it was maybe it was 2017. Don't mind me, I'm just ignoring you all. Okay, so I'm going to have to go back to 2017. I was just going to show you what I was talking about here with like the Hamburg. Yeah, that'll work. So if I pull up, I've got too many windows to go through when I'm using StreamYard. So let's see, present, share screen. So I have to bring this one back up. Dagnabbit. There we go. All right, so this is the Hamburg station. And what you have here is this is a Czech train. This is a Czech EC. This, in fact, is the EC Joyce and I are going to get on to drive all the way down to Dresden. Joyce and I had a few minutes before we had to get on the train, and we had reserved seats. So, yeah, we're going to get on that train and take it down to Dresden for our trip. And, you know, and then next to it is part of a Hungarian EC. And then they're way in the distance, you can just see the top. That was a Polish train, and then a German double-decker Regio. Then over here is a private regional train for the state of Germany north of Hamburg called Schleswig-Holstein. This is S&H. So yeah, check that out. So this is the rail fanning Joyce and I do. We just like to go to these stations, and when we arrive at the bigger stations, to look at the different trains and nationalities. That's actually Delmenhorst Station. But this is us in Hamburg, and the big lake, the Binnenalster. That's the little one. But just walking around Hamburg and seeing the sights. Our hotel room that had a floor that was at like about a 7-degree upgrade from one side of the room to the other. And then this is going into Miniature Wonderland. Modell Eisenbahn Wunderland. And this is actually before. Yeah, there were a couple of pictures of beer. I had a couple of pictures of me having a beer, and then one of our late friends. But yeah, Modell Eisenbahn Wunderland. They don't even, it's not, even though it's called, the official name is Miniature Wonderland, it doesn't say that on the actual building. It's Modell Eisenbahn Wunderland. And then on the sign above the door. And this is me before I lost about, well, from this picture, about 55 pounds. And my late friend Heinz and his, at the time, girlfriend, he married her right before he died. His wife had died in 2014, and this was an old friend of his from Spain. And about a year after his wife died, she came up, and her husband had died, his wife had died, so they remarried. And they started dating, and she moved from Spain up and lived with him the last couple of years of his life, and they got married a few months before he died. Yeah, when I don't drink beer very often in the United States here at home. I might drink 6 beers a year. When I'm in Germany, I drink a beer maybe 2 out of every 3 nights. I drink more beer in our trip to Germany than I drink in the rest of the year. I'll drink more beer in 4 weeks of Germany than I will in 3 years in the United States. Oh, Queensland is an hour behind. But yeah, so, and part of it is because you can buy German brand beers here, but they're all brewed here in the United States and they don't taste the same. But there's just dozens of pictures. This is right after they open their Italian section. And this is just, I've got so many videos and thousands of pictures over the years. And this is from 7 years ago. This is 2017. They had just opened their Italian section. And since then, they've done 2 different parts of France. And of course, now they've done South America. They did Venice the next year. And they are actually, right now, they're refurbishing this stuff. That's the Alpine section, the Austrian Alps and the Swiss Alps, and they are redoing a lot of the terrain on it. They are revamping it, remodeling it, renovating it. Hey, hello, Ian. Nice to see you here. But we went here to see the famous Mount Vesuvius. And I've got video on my channel of Mount Vesuvius erupting. But I first visited Miniature Wonderland in 2003. And then I visited again in 2004 and 5. And then I didn't visit it again until 2017. So 12 years in between. And then 2019 and 2023. I've been to Miniature Wonderland 6 times. So I saw it a year or 2 years after it first opened. And then I saw it 2 consecutive years after that. And then I went a 12-year gap where we didn't go to Miniature Wonderland. And then we went back in 2017, which is this. And then 2019 and 2023. So we've been to Miniature Wonderland 6 times. They had just built, this is the spaghetti Western scene. So this is actually in the Italian section, but they did a little bit where they're filming one of those old Clint Eastwood spaghetti Westerns, as we used to call them. I don't know if that's considered appropriate anymore, but I think the term is still used. Yeah, in a way. I got even heavier. I weighed probably 275, 76 pounds. No, I weighed about 276 and I weigh about 230 right now. So I lost 46 pounds, but I had ballooned up by 2019. I had ballooned up to close to 300 pounds and then I lost a lot of weight. But yeah, Mount Vesuvius is still one of the coolest things there. I think after 7 years, it's lost its luster and its shine, but it is something else. And there's just so many joke scenes when you go to Miniature Wonderland. I wasn't going to show all these pictures, but I am just scrolling through it because I'm here. And anytime I'm here, of course, their famous Knufingen Airport. Your Northern Hemisphere travel days are over. I'm sorry to hear that. It is how cool Miniature Wonderland really is Joyce is a perfect example. Joyce isn't really into model trains. She's a big supporter of this. She knows her model trains, but it's hard to say she's into it. She's knowledgeable of it. She loves how I love what I'm doing, and she's obviously an integral part of my channel, but it's hard to say if I were to die tomorrow, she wouldn't be down here playing with the train. She'd be, the shit's got to go. But Joyce, let's see, there we go. But Joyce, and also to finish, I'm trying to finish that thought, sorry, and got distracted. Joyce does not like going to the same places over and over. Joyce needs new. Anybody who's heard me talk about traveling with Joyce, wherever everything has to be new. You know, when we go to Germany, we can't go back to the same cities again, although there are a couple of exceptions. Joyce wants to see a new city, a new natural wonder, a new setup, even if it's that's even why we went to the UK. Joyce was sort of like, we've gone to Germany every year. Could we go someplace different? And then when Artie mentioned Australia, Joyce was like, wow, that's really new and different. We're going to Australia. Okay, dear, we're going to go to Australia. Because she had to talk me into it, because as much as I love Artie, the thought of a 14-hour flight just did not sound like fun. But Joyce was very enthusiastic about going to Australia. So I was like, all right, we'll go. Because that was the funny thing. When Artie first mentioned it, Joyce said, yeah, sure, we can come. And I looked at, it's probably on the live stream where I looked there like, whoa, wait, no, not so fast. And Artie's like, oh, I got your promise. Like, okay, we're stuck going, Yeah, I'm the same age. But yeah, mine was easy. My doctor said it was do something to lose weight or suffer a severe cardiac arrest. Hello, Philip Bender. Welcome in. So anyhow, I get distracted again. Don't finish that thought. But this is how cool Miniature Wonderland is. Joyce loves Miniature Wonderland, and she is all set that whenever we go back to Germany, we're going to Miniature Wonderland again. Now, it helps that Miniature Wonderland usually has something new, and if we're going to Germany every other year, then they've had time to build something new. So when we went 2017, they had just opened Italy. When we went 2019, they added to Italy with Venice, and we're starting the French section, and we're building the Provence. And had even started part of Monaco, and but they hadn't started doing the Grand Prix yet. And then in 2023, we saw the Grand Prix road built, but they still hadn't sorted out some of the issues, so they weren't running anything on it, but they had much of Monaco built up. Plus in 2023 they had the big Patagonia and South American exhibit built up. They had bought the new building, or they had bought the building next door and had built the bridge across and extended that between 2019 and 2023. And so that was very cool to see. So going back in 2025, they've expanded the South American bit. They've got the Grand Prix and all of Monaco in and done. Plus, they are remodeling. They are renovating some of the oldest sections, the areas that were there when they first opened in 2001. They're renovating all that. So there's always something new there. Why did that darken? Wonderland in Bavaria, Wonderland in Hamburg is an amazing thing. We have 2 videos on my channel. That one is in 4K, including a live stream we did. Unfortunately, the live stream filmed it in small vision, but we've got one video in 4K. The other one was filmed in 4K, but it's only 720 when it's enlarged to full screen because of the stupid way my camera filmed. You're considering putting a 009 track onto your layout with the dual track. No, Artie, she doesn't want to move to Australia, but she's keen on a second visit. And she's just as keen on that second visit because she's talked herself into, we're going to Hawaii for a week on the way over. So we'd spend a week in Hawaii and then 2 weeks in Australia. And that on the way back, we might hit Fiji or New Zealand. But again, it's money. The problem, I shouldn't say the problem is, the year we're planning to go, 2027, would be her retirement year, and she's going to get her big retirement bonus, which means we could afford first class, boom, 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 and still she'd have a crap load of money to put in the bank for old age. It's a huge place, and I was talking about this a couple of live streams ago with Miniature Wonderland could make double the money and have double the crowds if they were greedy, because they keep the crowds controllable so people can move through and see all the exhibits, and you're not stuck behind 5 rows of people waiting for your chance to get in there. Now, once you get in, you're in, but then they have sort of like a counter, and 3 people leave, the next 3 people waiting in line. That's why you should always buy your tickets early, because once you buy your tickets, you can stay as long as you want. So you buy it for a time frame. We're going to come in at 6 p.m. And if anybody ever goes to Hamburg, I advise you, go in the evening, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. They stay open till like 1 a.m. They stop letting people in like 11 o'clock, but can stay until like 1 a.m. So, and if you're going to walk through it quickly, 2 hours is enough. If you're going to really take your time, 3 to 4 hours really gives you just to walk through and really get a good view of it. I did a live stream that lasted 2 hours. Now, I did walk through it and didn't stop and focus on everything except the new stuff. And my live stream went about 2 hours. All right, Flymo is heading out. Good night. Take care. Thanks for popping in. So yeah, Miniature Wonderland is it is an epic experience. And you don't have to be into model trains. That was my first experience with it. Was I went with my students, a bunch of American teenagers, going to a model train, and you should have heard them whining. Why are we going to a model train exhibit? Well, we hear it's really cool, like it's really different. Oh my God, it's model trains. My uncle, my grandpa played with model trains, you know. But by the time they walked out, they were, this was so cool. Oh my God, did you see this joke here? Did you see this thing here? And some of my kids, the only thing they cared about were all the dirty jokes that they were finding. But that kept them entertained for the 2+ hours we were there with our students. Just running around and seeing how many dirty jokes there were. And they didn't find even close to all of them. All right, good night. Or, well, to you, have a nice day, Monsville. Take care. It's starting to warm up there. That's right. You guys are in your hot phase. You'd like to go over the Alps in Austria and Innsbruck. Been to Innsbruck. It's, yeah. And the thing is, we've now been to the other 2 big German displays. We've been to, you know, I did a video a few live streams back of our trip to the Porsche. I didn't show you the I did not show you the oh, what am I trying to say? The trip to the Märklin one, which is a little more subdued. Hello, Del Marva. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I would never discourage somebody from a Rhine cruise. I would never discourage somebody from that. But in all honesty, the money you would spend on a Rhine cruise, you could travel the Rhine the same distance, stay in a series of hotels, and see a lot more stuff for half the price or even less than half the price. Now, the Rhine cruise would maybe take you a couple, 3-4 days or a week, depending on which one you do. I think there's a 16-day one that does the entire navigable part of the Rhine from Lake Constance all the way up to where it goes out by Rotterdam, which would be an awesome experience. But they do stop at certain ports of call. But to me, Joyce and I looked at a Rhine cruise one year and just said, that's why we started traveling. We were like, well, let's do one of those Rhine cruises. And then we realized the cost of the Rhine cruise. Oh no, the trains and the hotel rooms, the Airbnbs were much cheaper, and we could spend more time in places rather than, okay, you got 2 hours at this port of call and then we're getting up and going. And that became our first trip without students in 2017. And you won't leave. Wifey would vomit. What would your wife vomit on, Hot Dog Pilot? Would she vomit at a boat cruise? Is that what would get to her? She'd throw up in a puddle. Okay, so yeah, it's the traveling by boat. I'm with you now. Because let's see, Hamburg, Freiburg, Ebersbach. Because, yeah, we could potentially do this. Well, I'll bore you guys for a little bit. We'll do Opus slideshow. So let's do that. Present, share screen, window. There we go. Let me see. I want to do this the other way. Yep, there we go. But oh, it's not going to let me move it. Fine. But this is Joyce and me at Gopingen train station. We're at Gopingen train station. And now 15 minutes later, we've walked down the street. It's really, you're on the same street, but it's a long walk that then curves around. And then bam, this is the Märklinaeum. You can see it says Märklin and then EUM sideways. This is actually the Märklin factory. Many of Märklin's locomotives are made here. And we paid for a tour. Unfortunately, normally they give you access to the factory, but something was going on and they had the factory closed to visitors this day. It was just the luck of the draw. We had already set our days here. But part of your entrance to the Märklinaeum is you can go into the train shop and walk around and go down the side, and you can go into the factory and watch people actually building the Märklin locomotives. You can see them building it, including you get to go into the one room where you see the people working on CAD designs of coming models, at least the ones that they're public about, and then see people painting and drilling them all out. Hey, Dundas, how are you, James? But so this is Märklin, the company I do, but this is their little train shop. So so this is back to the Gopingen train station. Gopingen is the town. And then this is just some pictures. And then, yeah, that's us coming up, because those other pictures were selfies on the phone. So they have a different labeling system. So they were in front. So there we are. So Märklin Werk 1. So the Märklin factory is one kilometer around. I mean, and it really is. It's the street, and then you go all the way down. So it's one building, but the building's that long. And so when you walk in, you got some famous Märklin locomotives and trains, 2 versions of the TEE. This is one scale. And this is the company Stihl that makes chainsaws and that. But apparently they had a deal with Märklin, and they did a bunch of cars and stuff celebrating the company Stihl back in the day. And you just come in, and this is their shop. You can go here and buy things right out of the factory. They have a shop here. I got seasick on a Jolly Round Portland bill, but happily ate bacon rolls on the... That doesn't sound smart if you're getting seasick and eating bacon rolls. That just sounds like a dangerous mix. And for example, like these 2 vehicles at the time were only available at the shop. You cannot buy these at a store. You had to come here and buy it. And in the back, you can see a locomotive I would eventually buy, my big Class 320. I didn't buy it there because it was too expensive there. I can get it for cheaper somewhere else. And I finally did buy it before we left Germany. We found it for cheaper, although I didn't get it as cheap as I would have had I bought it from Lipa. But we bought it and I brought it home. Some Swiss double-deckers, German double-deckers, the ICE4, a French TGV up above, just all kinds. This is just their shop. But anything that Miraklin is actively available from Miraklin, you can buy at the shop. They have it all. They also have a repair shop. You can literally just walk in and hand it to them, and they'll tell you we'll have it fixed in an hour or we'll have it fixed in a couple of days. You know, like, and they will say, if you brought it in, if you walk it in, they'll look at it and say, are you going to do a tour of the museum and that? Yeah, they said, fine. Come back in an hour and we'll let you know what we found out. And in many cases, they actually will fix it on site for you while you're doing the tour. I've never gotten travel sick. Joyce has turned green a couple of times. I've never gotten travel sick, although with Artie, I was getting there. I was getting just sick of riding up and down hills. So maybe it was a motion sickness. So maybe in Australia, I finally actually got that kind of sick. I never thought I was going to throw up, but I was just getting mentally, I was tired of it. I had been challenging my fear of heights, and it was more panic attack than vomiting. That's probably the best way to put it. It was more panic attack. I'm more likely to hyperventilate than to vomit. But this is, obviously, if you look at these next couple of pictures here, we go straight in. We are now in at the Miraklin. This is just a giant display to show off their trains, but it's something that's eye candy for when you come to the shop. So a lot of train people. I know train clubs. I know a couple of American train shops put together, like Renaud's, just west of Chicago. They put together trips to go to Miniature Wonderland, but they also, for that same trip, they go to Miniature Wonderland and stay in Hamburg for a couple of days, and then they come down to the Miraklin Museum. Yeah, they might have to. You know, I happily, you know, I don't say they're the best company in the world. Other people will say that. I think they're a great company, and I love what I get from Miraklin. But I know their story. I heard from too many people about how they were once the best in the world, and then through the through the 90s, their quality started going down, and the family was having financial problems, and so on and so on and so on. And that the quality dropped. And there are some people that I used to like Miraklin, but I won't buy anything from Miraklin after 2003. And I always think that's a little harsh because I think they're making really high quality stuff. And at one time, they were the largest model train makers in Europe. I think Kato now is bigger in terms of number of model trains made. I think Kato is now bigger, but they're still the biggest. They're bigger than Hornby. Believe it or not, they're bigger than Hornby. Always eat well, nothing better. I don't know. My problem is if I think my stomach's going to be off, I don't want to eat because then I know that's going to come back. So yeah, just this is, I think, although this is slightly smaller than the Porsche one, I think this is a better made one. The Porsche one is fancier, but this one's better made. I don't know if that makes sense. I just think Porsche went in for all the high-tech, fancy light shows and that. Beautiful trains, beautiful buildings. I don't think the building and the track lane is better between the two places. I think they're both high-end, just as good as Miniature Wonderland. But I think in terms of scenics like trees and grass, I think Miraklin did a better job. I really think a drawback of the Porsche Museum was how they did their trees. From a distance, they look awesome, but when you get within 2-3 feet, you see that, wow, they're really kind of, I won't say cheaply made, but they look cheaply made. It's good for fishing. Now you can puke that chum up and see what comes up for it. Yeah, easy cure for seasickness. Stand under a tree. Indeed. And like Miniature Wonderland, like Porsche, they do times of the day. Now, the one thing I will say I liked about the Porsche Traumwerk was that they did different seasons. Like they had an area that was done in fall colors and an area that was done snow covered, and then an area that was kind of spring. And then most of it was done sort of the height of the growing season, late spring through the summer. But they did have some sections that were done in the other seasons. These guys kept it all pretty much summer. So I got to give Porsche Traumwerk credit for that. But again, lots of cool hidden scene stuff that you really have to lean over and lean in and see them behind things. There's always some eye candy no matter where you go. And of course, if you like your trains, they'll have trains from all eras running. So somebody was talking about that in a, was it a live stream? Somebody was doing that. They were talking about running different eras and rule one, and some people were saying, personally, the scenery's got to match the era of the trains and blah blah blah. And that's fine to have that feeling, but all my buildings are era 6 and I'm running era 1 trains, and I don't look at it and go, wow, that looks completely out of place, because I'm usually just looking at the train and not the city blocks. Looks awesome for a sleep scene on TV. Yeah. Like I said, I have videos on my channel that do a full 4K tour of this. So you can see it in action. But I had to start the show late today. I've been busy all day. And then Joyce and her family scheduled a family dinner. They like to catch up every 2-3 months or whatever and go out to eat, and it's like they all look at their schedules and say, well, here's when I'm free, and Joyce is like, well, here's when I'm free, and her other sisters, here's when I'm free, and her brother's like, and his wife is like, well, here's when I'm free, and they all have to find, and then they never ask, when is Anthony free, because they always schedule Friday night or Saturday night. It's never Saturday afternoon. Let's go out for lunch. When the three sisters that live in the Toledo area decide to get together for 3 sisters and 1 sister-in-law, when they decide to get together and go out for lunch on their birthdays, they always go Sunday afternoon. But then when it's a family thing, it's Friday night or Saturday night, and they know I'm busy Friday night and Saturday night. Hi, your mate Gary. No, I did not build this. Oh, hell no. This is professional. This is at the factory. This is at the factory where the trains that I use, Märklin, this is the Märklin factory in Göppingen, Germany, and they built a large display for their trains called the Märklineum, which simply means the Märklin room. But yeah, it's brilliant stuff. It's a really cool place. But now Porsche Traumwerk is probably the hardest one to get to. Porsche's Traumwerk is by far the hardest one to get to. That might just keep us out of the way. It's in the middle of nowhere. You got to go to Salzburg. You got to go to Salzburg, Austria is the easiest way to get there. Or you can go to this little town called Prien, but you'd have to get to Prien on Chiemsee. And then there are buses that run once an hour you have to figure out the bus lines to get you to Porsche's Traumwerk. If you're taking public transportation, if you're driving, then yeah, you can drive down from Munich. It would probably take you about an hour and a half to drive from Munich on the A4. Or I think it's also the A4 coming up out of Salzburg. And then it takes you like half an hour drive from maybe not even half an hour drive from Salzburg. But it's a little town called Anger, spelled like the English word anger, but it's Anger. And it's a tiny little blip on the radar, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's just some private land that the Porsche family owns, and they built it there. That's hard to get to. Gopingen is a small town, but it's relatively easy to get to. You go to Stuttgart. You'd have to go to Stuttgart, and then it's a less than half an hour train ride from Stuttgart to Gopingen, and then from the Gopingen train station, it's about a 12-minute walk. 12 to 15-minute walk, depending on how well you walk, to get to the Märklin. Or again, you can take a bus or even a taxi. And again, if you're driving, you just go there. But Gopingen is due east of Stuttgart. It's on a main route line. You go Stuttgart, Esslingen, Ebersbach, Gopingen. And Joyce and I lived in the town of Ebersbach for 3 days. And we went into Stuttgart one day, and then we went to Gopingen here the next day. Well, the Germans have always been known as manufacturers. If we take all historical issues, because, there's that World War II issue where Germany is completely to blame for everything that happened there. And they acknowledge it, unlike some countries who don't acknowledge their blame in some things. But a lot of history books will blame Germany for World War I. And Germany did not start World War I. And I'm not talking just the whole bit between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. All the countries of Europe were itching for a fight. France wanted revenge on Germany for getting their asses kicked by Prussia in the Franco-Prussian War. England did not like the fact that Germany was starting to build a navy. And Germany, of course, wanted to get on African colonization. And England and France are already like, we're the world colonies. Don't you try to step into our game. And they were all looking for a fight. And Germany does not get enough credit. Germany tried to prevent the war because this is what happened. Guy with Serbian money blows away the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. Austria-Hungary says this is the chance to put these Balkan states in their place and put upstart Serbia down. And so they make all these conditions to prevent a war, and Serbia agrees to all but one of the conditions. And Austria says, well, we're going to attack. It's war. And so Russia tells Austria, if you attack Serbia, we're attacking you because we're the protector of Serbia. And Germany says, Russia, you don't want to do that because if you attack Austria, we have to attack you because we're the defenders of Austria. And France said, Germany, if you attack Russia, we have to attack you. And Germany went to England and said, guys, can you talk to France? And England said, yeah, we'll try to talk to France. And France was like, nope, this is our chance to get them back. And so Germany did what they felt they had to do, but all the countries were itching for a fight. World War I should be blamed on everybody. There wasn't one country who started it. They all were douchebags, and they all deserved to be blamed for it. But the winners always get to say it was their fault to the losers. Hey, Andy81E, how are you? Oh, I'll gladly show you how to get around Germany. I'll tell you the best. I'll tell you how to see the best in Berlin in a day. I'll tell you what 2 buses to ride or what 3 streets to walk. Hey, I hear Randall is back. Hi, Randall.
Yep, I'm back.
Randall's
that train we just saw a little while ago, I had to take the crew up off of it. So
I'm just going through showing some pictures of the Märklin AM, as it's called. This is a cool little model of this walking area they had that Joyce and I actually, it's actually supposed to be near the town of Freiburg where Joyce and I stayed. And we actually saw this, the real thing this is based on. We saw the real one this is based on, this little forest adventure park they have where you do all these crazy things, zip lining, and you have an obstacle course you hike go climb up the trees, slide down, zip line down. It goes all over through this area. It's a really cool place, and they did a little model of some of it there. But this is a fantastic place. I would not say Miniature Wonderland. I would say Miniature Wonderland would be one of those things where you fly over, stay in Hamburg for 3 days, and fly out, and it's worth the trip. It's worth it. I would not say the Märklinaam or the Traumberg are worth a trip by themselves. It's just if you're in the area where they are, it's worth taking part of a day and going to see these places. Miniature Wonderland by itself is worth a visit. If you have a chance where you're near Hamburg and you have 4, 5, 6 hours free, get over to Miniature Wonderland. That's worth the price of the trip by itself. I think these are worth visiting if you're in the area, but I wouldn't say, oh, go to Germany and go see this. I would say go to Germany and see Miniature Wonderland. This is very cool. It's awesome, but it's not 1/10 the size of Miniature Wonderland. It's gorgeous. It's cool. It's an amazing place. There's a little dragon they have in a cave because they all like to do their joke scenes. But Porsche Traumwerk is very cool. But again, I would never say, oh, you got to go see Porsche's Traumwerk. I would say it's definitely worth seeing if you're in the area. But I might say, if you say, oh, we're going to be in Munich, what are some train-related things to do? Well, if you're driving, it'll take you about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but you can drive from Munich and go down to Porsche Traumwerk. Oh, you're going to be in Salzburg? Well, about a half an hour drive north of Salzburg, Traumwerk, and if you're into model trains, it's worth that drive. But it's not worth traveling all the way over there just to go into that little area. Now, if you were going to be in that, I would say, yeah, it's part of a bigger trip. Going to see Berchtesgaden and Königssee and the German Alps in that region, that whole part of Germany is just absolutely stunningly beautiful. The hills and the mountains. And then going into the town of Salzburg itself is definitely worth a visit. But yeah, Hamburg's got plenty of places. And Hamburg is big. Okay. Hamburg maybe isn't as big as London or New York in terms of square footage, but it actually can feel that way because it's spread out. There's not a lot of high rises, so it's spread out. Population wise, it's only 1/3 like Hamburg. No, Hamburg is like 1.7 million people, but you don't have a lot of super tall apartment buildings like you have in New York, where you just have thousands of skyscrapers or hundreds of skyscrapers and thousands of high rises. Hamburg really doesn't have a lot of that. So it is spread out wide, but there are a lot of things that are cool to see. Hey, Greg is here. Hello, Greg. But again, it's just, it's very cool. What gets you is the size and the scope of it, and seeing pictures of it doesn't necessarily make it stand out. It's, again, it's based on the Stuttgart Black Forest region of Germany. So there's a lot of cool things that it tries to highlight of that region, just like Traumberg represents the Alpine area of southern Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Miniature Wonderland, of course, is trying to do the whole world. Hamburg Harburg is mega for train watching. Yes, it is, Andy. If you want to do rail fanning or train spotting, Hamburg Harburg, which is a major stopping point. Now, I have only been through Hamburg Harburg. I've never actually stopped there. But as I was telling at the beginning of this live feed, when I've been in Hamburg Hauptbahnhof, I love to, if I have time, I love to just go up on the one platform and look down at all the trains from all the different countries coming into Hamburg, because you've got the northern lines coming in from Denmark, and then you've got the eastern lines coming in from as far away as Hungary, Poland, obviously the Czech Republic, Austria. But this is, this is an amazing, it's an amazing place. But it's it's not something I would say, oh, you have to go there and see it. It's if you're in the area, it's worth seeing. If you want to go on a tour and see the really cool large model train layouts, I could give you a list of 6 or 7 and say, depending on how much time you're going to spend in Germany, Miniature Wonderland, and then there's one in the Black Forest that is really worth seeing. And that's not even talking the Märklin World Museum that's in Titisee in the Black Forest. But there's a few of them, and there's a private one that he opens it to the public like 5 times a year. That is just amazing. The guy it was a rich man. And in fact, I think the guy that actually had it built has since passed away, but his family still runs it. And one of his sons owns the house now, but they built a giant hall on their property, and the dad built his private layout. It's not meant for public, but they now open it to the public a few times a year to make a little money. And when it's open, I would like to go see that. It's a thing called the Hochschwarzwald. I'd have to link a video to it, but it's an amazing place. But it is a private thing, but it's open certain times of the year. That would be one to get to. But they had some top pros working on this. In fact, I think Josef Brandl, did he work on this one or Traumberg? I forget which one. Josef Brandl in the German model train community. Josef Brandl is like, if Luke Towan worked professionally as a layout builder, Josef Brandl is at that level. Well, he's above Luke Towan, but he is a professional layout builder. He is a professional layout builder. He is a for contract, and he designs and does it all. Although he's getting old, and his 2 sons do a lot of it, and of course they have workers that come in. But they build the high end. They are the Lamborghinis, the Porsches, the Ferraris, the Aston Martins, the Jaguar, whatever you want to call it. They are the highest epitome of layout builders in at least in Europe. They are the firm. Yeah, I unfortunately have never been to Amsterdam. Well, I've been to Schiphol, but not Amsterdam. I have only been in the airport. Joyce and I someday want to spend a week in Amsterdam and would also like to get over to Rotterdam. So someday that trip will get done too. And to Colditz. If you go to the Black Forest, I went to have a Black Forest cake with Hilda. Well, Joyce and I actually did have Black Forest cake, and we had 2 of them, and one was really good and the other one was awful. We did not enjoy it. It had too much of the alcohol in it, and it was too strong. And the only thing that I can't show you here is that, what I loved about Traumwerk was how vivid their 4-walled back scene was, with all the animations and the light up displays and the movies they played through it, and how well they blended the scenery into the backgrounds that they projected on here. This is only a 2-hour. This is only a 2-hour, or I'm sorry, not a 2-hour. What am I saying? 2-hour. This is only one wall. They only have this display on the one wall here, and it's very nicely done. It's animated. Clouds flow in. The weather changes. Sun comes up. Sun sets. It rains occasionally. Nighttime comes in. It doesn't do anything fancy light show the way the Porsche one did, if you remember that from a few weeks ago when I showed you the Porsche one. But it's nicely done. The only negative, it's only on the one wall. It'd been nice if they built that around on the sides more. I think it would have been really cool. Believe it or not, that was not me. I don't know if that was Randall, but that wasn't me.
What's that?
There was a pink or a thing that sounded like a battery.
Oh yeah, that's my phone giving me alerts to text and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
But yeah, it just goes on and goes on, and you could go up to an upper level and look down on it. So now you can kind of get the idea of the size. I don't know if that shows up. That's probably that's the longest end, and that is probably, is it 9 or 10 meters long? So it's about 30 to 32 feet. That's the longest side. It has 3 peninsulas that it forms. So there you can see the middle peninsula, and then the other one's a short one, a very short one over on the side. So this one is not. This is the smallest of the 3. Miniature Wonderland obviously is the biggest one. Porsche Traumwerk is a good 50 to 100% bigger, almost double the size of this one. This is a very nice one. And that's why I say it's not necessarily worth the visit. And once you leave it, you go into the Märklin Museum, where they have all the old Märklin toys, including, for example, Fowler once made a custom version of the factory, and that is the factory. Now, the building I was just in was added to the factory because they built an extension of the factory that would be on the right side and extends, probably a full block. But this is the original Märklin factory, and that building is still there. They just added to it and expand further down the road with it. A 42-track fiddle yard. Interesting. But Märklin is now known as Model Trains, but Märklin actually started as dollhouse and dollhouse furniture, and then they went into toys for all levels, play cooking toys and real cooking toys, copper toys, tin toys, etc., etc. But these are all little kids' play sets. Those are not actual pots and pans, although you could use them that way. It was turn of the century. You can see it says 1890 toy pots and pans. This is dollhouse furniture. Or you could even buy sections and put together an entire dollhouse. You would buy a section, like you would buy this section with the bathroom and everything else, and then you would buy the next section, and they went together, and eventually you'd build this monster mansion. But you could also buy these individual pieces separately, the tub, the shower, the faucet, and put them in your own dollhouse. But that's how they started, as a dollhouse furniture and basically almost a girl's toys, although they made tin soldiers and that for boys, but all the toy cooking stuff. These are actually dollhouse ranges and stoves and ovens here. And again, they made steam toys. I mean, you can see this here. And that's what they made. And then in the early 1900s, they started making model trains. But even before model trains, they were making cars and all that. Some more of the buildings that they had designed. You could buy these from Märklin. And you can occasionally find these online, but if you do, these are all tin, by the way, or whatever metal. These were all metal buildings. And just Märklin made everything. Now, I will tell you, Joyce took the pictures, and Joyce is usually very good about photographing. In fact, you can actually see Joyce shadowed in the background there. And some of their early toys and one of their earliest trains still around. They made model ships that floated and did everything. They made slot cars. In fact, I think that's the first time I ever heard of the company Miraklin. Is somebody, a relative of mine, had some Miraklin slot cars, and I never put together when I got into model trains with Miraklin. It was only looking at some old photographs a few years ago that they had a picture of his slot car set, my uncle's slot car set, and it said Miraklin. I was like, oh, that was Miraklin. All right, Chris, good night. But just, it goes on and on and on. Just amazing stuff here. And then the final room is just all their model trains, all their locos, and as much of their rolling cars, including that gorgeous thing there. And some of these are from the 1930s and 1920s. Some of the great car sets, and they do it by year of release. You know, they'll have, all right, these were the trains released from 1920 to 1924 because they just did the molds, and then, okay, they introduced a couple more in 1926, and okay. And yeah, it's a pretty amazing place. It is worth the visit. There's their ICE experimental. That was the first ICE model train made. They made the ICE experimental even before the ICEs became used. This was the experimental where they were testing to see if they could do it. And it just goes on and on. And then what's interesting is they don't have the license. So this is actually a gauge 1 up here. And they call it an LCE because they can't call it an ICE for some reason at that gauge. And that thing's only about $5,000. That's all. So it's insane. Oh, and that's it. That's when we got done, we came back and went to the town of Esslingen. But there we go. So that was that. So there, I've killed the time. So what's happening, Randall? You went and moved a crew, or?
Yeah, I went and got the crew and brought them back here to the depot, and it looks like we don't have much else. I don't know what else is running. So the other yard van's at King getting a crew, so I guess they're tying everything down.
Yes, Andy 81E, Miraklin is older than Rocco and Pico. I don't know if anybody is older. I know Miraklin as a company is 165 years old. They started in 1859. So they've been around a long time. I don't think Rocco or Pico go back that far. Now Pico, I don't know. I need Raymond Legs here, or maybe even I don't know how much Jean Ricard would remember. But both Rocco is Austrian, and they started as a company called, or was it Pico started as a company called Rova? I thought Rocco became Rova, or Rova became Rocco, but Rova was actually East German and Pico is East German. So I think Pico started as Rova. But yeah, they're not as old. But Pico started as an East German company in the late 40s, early 50s. Rocco is Austrian now. Yeah, and yeah, that would be a big one. That's why I'm not doing O scale or G scale. I don't even know that somebody makes an O scale ICE. Although my friend Christopher shared a picture with me today. Kato now makes an ICE 4 with the German flag striping on it, but it's N scale. If it were HO and available in AC, but Kato doesn't make anything AC. They need to.
I saw Hot Dog Pollyanny was asking me about my car. Yeah, Andy, we hauled it home, but it still won't start. We don't know what's wrong with it.
Oh,
right
I'm
now,
sorry,
so.
Randall.
Yeah, I still got the 2 trucks, so I can alternate between those 2. So
Yeah, I have Well, we have 3 vehicles here, but when one goes down, it's still a pain in the patootie.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're driving that one. But yeah, it was. I've had the fortune. I've been able to visit all these places. The one I mentioned before that I'm really mad is that Joyce and I were 100 feet from Switzerland's largest model train called Little Switzerland, and very mad we didn't see it. Joyce and I originally planned to go up to Niagara Falls and Toronto for a week over the summer, and it didn't happen because her knee injury and then a couple other things came up, and we didn't go. But we were going to go up into Toronto and see Little Canada, and we were also thinking we could maybe meet a couple of people, like Sparky 107 said he would come down and meet us to go to Little Canada if we wanted to do that. Yeah, I cannot speak about the American companies, although when I look at a lot of the American companies, I think they make a lot of quality stuff. I think stuff from the British Isles, I think, can be hit and miss. Hornby can make some real nice stuff and then some real crappy stuff. Bachmann, and again, some people are Hornby people, some people are Bachmann people. And they'll crap on the other company. I don't have a dog in the hunt. For example, I've had 2 different Mallards from Hornby, and the first one I had always felt a little chintzy. This one that Hot Dog Pilot Andy got me, and somebody told me it's the exact same model except it's digital. And the funny thing is, it feels like it's a much better made model. So if it's the same exact one, just why it feels like it's just better made, I don't know. If it's the same model, just they put the digital stuff in and put it in a box that said TTS, which is their Hornby's homogenic digital setup. They're simple. It's hey, Possum Bio, how are you, Rusty? I think the German model makers and the Austrians, I do think they have a higher level of quality, especially compared to, for example, something out of Denmark like Hellion, which can make some good stuff and can make some crap. Now, having said that, I think Pico can drop the ball at times. I think Pico's hobby level, a lot of Pico's hobby level stuff is not made great. I mean, if it's one thing if you're giving it to an 8-year-old who's going to have a small table layout and run it a little bit, but it definitely was not made for running on my layout, pulling the longer cars I had them pulling, and I wasn't thrilled with my couple of Pico hobby things I bought.
Well, we might have a southbound coming. I see one of the crew guys coming in for one of the third guys coming in.
Andy 81E, I am very happy with my Rocos and my Pico Experts, like my Pico Expert CD Railjet, the Taurus, the Czech Railjet. That runs excellently. I've got a Pico Class 181-2 that runs beautifully. I don't think I've had a Roco go bad for me. Well, no, let me correct myself. I bought a 218 red 218 from Roco, which actually had production problems, and that they actually canceled it and recalled them and then supposedly fixed it. It is not a strong puller. It runs okay by itself, but the minute you add 4 or 5 cars, it seems to struggle. So I would say that was a disappointment. That one was a disappointment. I have a Brava 245 that is not it's a nice looking diesel, but I don't think it's a great puller. It doesn't like going up my incline with a full rake of Regios. Well, welcome back on, Reynolds. You're still up late over there on the east shores of the UK. But for example, when I got into the hobby, there's this company out of Slovakia. I believe it's Slovakia, or are they Slovenia? Called Mahano. And I would have guys bashing Mahano. And then some people said, well, Mahano is hit and miss. They're cheap stuff. Avoid it like the plague. But their special releases and their higher end stuff is actually pretty good. And I've got one Mahano that was given to me. And it runs beautifully. I love it. It's my Blue Tiger. And that impressed me. I was like, wow, Mahano has always been, I was always told by the Germans, Mahano was sort of meh, 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 meh. But my Blue Tiger is a fantastic locomotive by Mahano. But, so yeah, it'll be curious to see because Andy81, you're not the first one to mention that their recent Roku purchases have been less than stellar. That they have been that they've been disappointed with a couple of them. But then again, my buddy Jim from Hover Motion just bought a couple of Roku Veterans and he's loving them. Equals Hellfire Corner, too many in the USA. Ah, okay. But I am lucky. All my Rokos have been very good, except for that 218, which is why I turned around and bought a Merklin 218, which runs fine. But I have that Italian Roku. Or wait, no, which one? Yeah, was that a Roku? That I picked up from Herb, and I love that one. I think that's an awesome. Or is the other one the Roku? God, I forget which one that is. I think it was a Roku though. Oh yeah, the international bank transfers. Oh, that's Roku. Roko's spare parts division. If you want to buy spare parts, you don't do it directly through Roku. They link you to their spare parts division, which is a totally separate entity of Roku. Why? I don't know. And yeah, the only way you can buy spare parts from Roku is international bank transfer. And if you live in Europe and the European Economic Community, no charge. As an American, my bank charges me something like $25-$30 to do it. It's a ripoff because all they have to do is type in some numbers and move the money over. But it's a way they get money from you. So I bought a bunch of spare parts from Roku where the pieces cost about $7. And I had to pay $40 to get them home. $33 for the bank transfer and then €7 for the pieces. Plus shipping. So it was ridiculous. I hate that. We ran into that a few years ago where a hostel we were trying to book for our students wanted an international bank transfer, and we're like, we can't do it. It's different with Roku. They changed the spare parts 6 weeks ago. All right, Ian, go to knock. It's Pico you can't get parts from. So yeah, it's or no, was it Brava that was? No, it was Peak. It was Roku that they would only do a bank transfer. They wouldn't do credit card. And then Brava is even crazier to try to get spare parts from. The hardest one is Acme because there are no spare parts by Acme. Yep, Calais is only a few miles across from there. Yep. La Manche in French. Yep, in français. La Manche. And someday Joyce and I are going to do France too. All these places. Yeah, Bachman USA. I mean, like Lipa does credit cards. Lipa does pretty much any way you want to pay. You can use PayPal. You can use straight credit card, which I do because PayPal charges a fee. My credit card doesn't. My bank still charges a $3 conversion fee, which really sucks because it's an international credit card and it says it doesn't charge you fees. But my bank still charges a fee, even though the credit card says they charge no fees. Go figure. They give you credit because, yeah, shipping from Australia back to Lipa would be hard. I probably got a couple of things I should have just sent back to Lipa, but I sent them to my guy in California. But the last thing he did took a while for him to do it, and it was expensive. I'm a little loath. I've got 3 trains that they're in that box right there. I'm packing them up. That I need to send out and fix, and I'm just trying to decide where to send them. Do I contact my guy in California that's done all my work? But he's getting more expensive. His decoders have gone way up in price. He used to do my decoders for $50-$60. Now it's $100.
Yeah, real quick, Del Mar Morel fan. I just talked to one of the guys that just showed up, and he said there's nothing coming north until 6 o'clock in the morning. Or that there's no trains until 6 o'clock. That's what I understood. So,
hey, Steve, how are you?
They said there may be some southbounders coming, but they said there's nothing coming north until at least 6 o'clock. So,
Ooh, well, hopefully you're not stuck there until 6.
Well, we'll find out.
Oh no.
BNSF tends to want to run trains whenever they feel like it anymore. So.
That's no fun.
They'll say one thing and then all of a sudden they'll just put a deluge of trains in.
So who's the guy in and out of the little station wagon in front of you? That looks
that's one of the other rail crew drivers. He's taking those crews to Memphis that I was just telling you about. So.
Oh, okay. So he's another driver. Is that a Dodge Magnum?
That is a Toyota Sienna. That's what we run here.
I was going to say it didn't quite look like it, but it did, and I couldn't think of anybody else who made anything like it. In your camera, it looks longer. The Siennas I think of as being a bit shorter, and maybe it's just the camera angle makes it look longer.
These are the new hybrid. Well, I say they're new. They're a couple years old now, but they're the hybrids. The only one that's not a Toyota that's here is the yard van. That's a Chevrolet Tahoe. And that sucker, I've never seen anything like that thing, Anthony. It uses just insane amounts of oil, and it's like driving a tank going down the road. I think at one time, the thing didn't even have 30,000 miles on. They had to take it to Springfield and have the motor rebuilt in it.
Right.
Yeah. When it's sitting in the yard idling, it holds almost no oil pressure, and you go down the road and it's like up to 50 or 60 psi.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just a really weird built vehicle. That's all I can describe it as.
Yeah, and you'd think they would do that too. Steve says, funny out here, they use the big SUVs for the crews. Think they would do that, get it as big. Like my Dodge Durango actually has a lot of space. You can fit 6 big people fairly well in it.
We had a Dodge van here as a lease van. It's been a little over a year ago now. Those things got a little pep to them. They got you got to really watch, or you burn the tires off of it. Taking off.
Yep. Dodge just likes its horsepower. Horsepower first.
It was a front wheel drive van.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know.
So,
I love my Dodge Caravans. I love my Dodge Vans.
and then the other one
That's
we
the
had
problem
here,
with Dodge engineering is Dodge still is more about horsepower first and gas mileage second.
and the other one we had leased here, it wasn't a Dodge, but it was a Chrysler. It was a, oh shoot, what do you call those vans? Like a Town and Country, or
Yep, the Chrysler Town and Country.
yeah. This one was kind of hard for me to figure out first because it didn't have the gear shift. It had the knob on the or on the panel there to put it in gear.
Randall Delmarva asked, do you have any way of tracking the southbound trains?
The only way I could tell what's coming south would be to go in the depot and use the computer, but I don't ever mess with that.
Okay.
Because I'm not smart enough to log in there, and I'm afraid I'd have something screwed up if I tried to log in. So, but yeah, they got a computer in there that shows every train on the Thayer sub that's tied down, even the ones tied down. So, I just rely on the trusty scanner.
And Steve says, does your van have the vacuum cleaner in it?
No, I don't have a vacuum cleaner. We got a shop bag.
Dodge introduced it, and then the Honda Odyssey ran with it, where they had a vacuum system built into the van, and you could vacuum.
These are the most stripped down vans you can get. They don't have they really don't have anything special in them.
Hey, Raymond Anthony 127, we're going to be logging off here in a couple of minutes because it is 10 o'clock here, and I started late, so I ran longer, and I've still run till 10 o'clock. I keep telling myself I don't want to run till 10 or past, but then I do. It's Saturday night, but we get an extra hour of sleep tonight, so I'll just tell myself it's only 9 o'clock right now. But, yeah, it's... you saw a lime green Dodge like mine, the Charger. They wanted 240,000 Australian for it. That's not a total surprise. I would have guessed 200,000 Australian to get it over there, but yeah, it's but yeah, Dodge finally does have the first. They're not even hybrids. They're full electric, but the new full electric Charger is gorgeous, and it's got a lot of horsepower.
Yeah, I saw the new Charger that they're coming out with. That thing looks nice.
That's the electric. They're remodeling the gas powered one. I was hoping Dodge would do a hybrid, because even though Joyce and I are very green people, the electric tech, I'm not 100% sold on yet. Obviously, when companies go to new tech, there's going to be bugs in the system.
Yep.
I mean, and of course, Americans over exaggerate, like, oh, all the electric cars are catching on fire and burning up. But, when it's the one thing I accept the arguments of the anti-electric car people is like, if you're driving somewhere and you didn't stop and charge that up and there's not another charging, you could die in the middle of and you got no way of getting anywhere. It could be hours before you get a car out to tow you. But like in the Toledo area, we're now getting electric charging stations everywhere, and it's not too expensive to have an electric charging station built up in your house.
I'll tell you what, these hybrid vans, these Toyota hybrids, like that one you're seeing there on your screen, I've been highly impressed with how well these things have held up and how they go through terrain. I mean,
yeah,
they just got regular highway tires on. You can drive these suckers off road. I think it was yesterday I went to Kosh, where I just went a little bit ago, and actually took the new access road they built, and it had just rained the previous night, and the access road was muddy, and it just plowed right on through it. I mean, they can really go through some pretty let's just say they can go through some terrain you wouldn't normally take a van in.
Right. Understood. I've had to do that with some vehicles. Yeah, that's true, Andy. The amount of rare metals they use can be, but again, I mean, in the long run, we need to go that way because gasoline is it's a the pollution alone is an issue with the population and the number of people. The population in the world has doubled in the last 35 years, and the number of people driving vehicles has tripled in the last 30 years. And we are putting more and more pollution in the air, which is creating effects. And I don't want to turn this into a political argument. But also it's a limited finite resource. And so the way to go and the jobs are in the green energy and green energy vehicles, but you've got to fight through the technology and get to work. It's just like when they started trying to make trains digital at the first. Now, some people are, hey, I've got analog and I'm never going to change, and that's cool. But they obviously went through stages of development. And, Hornby, give them credit. They released some of the first Bluetooth, along with the Blue Namis. They released some of the first Bluetooth full decoder system where you could use it in DCC, but you could also set it up as Bluetooth. And I don't think it caught on as well. And I actually had said 4 years ago, in one of my Miracle and Outsiders, somebody asked me where I thought what the next big thing would be. I said I thought Bluetooth technology in model trains was going to be the next big thing, and maybe it still will be.
Anthony, I think the thing with the Blue Nami decoders, they're really high priced decoders. I mean, I was looking at some at Iron Plant Hobbies, and they're like $160 a decoder. So, and they're probably one of the cheapest places you can get stuff from them at. So, I think probably the price is hurting them. A lot of it, but it's hard to say.
Right. Now, the thing is, I know people that have electric cars that swear by them, but they're not taking cross-country trips either. And once Joyce and I feel the tech has really got there, we might go electric for driving around local, and then gas or a hybrid. That's the thing I'm upset with Dodge, is have a hybrid. Joyce and I both believe hybrid is the best way to go. Electric when you can, but immediately switch to gas. Because the Dodge electric cars are going to be the most horse-powered electric cars there are. That's already established. They're going to have like 25, 50% more horsepower than any other electric vehicles out there. But the thing is, Dodge didn't even go the hybrid route. They're releasing the electric charger and then the gas powered charger. And I would really like to have seen them do a hybrid charger. That would be cool. Now, Dodge just released the Hornet, which will be gas or electric. The Hornet is now available. It's the first official Dodge car that is electric. And the Hornet, again, it's sort of a hybrid mid-sized SUV. It basically replaces the Journey. But it's kind of interesting. It's sort of a compact SUV, but I don't, it's not a particularly sexy car, but I remember thinking that way about the Dart, and then I fell in love with the Dart and bought a Dart, and loved my Dart, which my son now drives. And so it's just one of those things. Sometimes progress can be a bit painful, and sometimes it's 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, but in the long run, you get forward. But it gets, the problem is any discussion like that gets caught up in, it becomes political, which it shouldn't be political. I guess the problem is Joyce and I are very scientific minded, and we understand the science, and we both are aware of the changes, the drastic changes that the earth has gone through just since the period of the industrial revolutions, first in Europe and then America's later industrial revolution, and the rise of so many things. It's you got to do what you got to do, and you got to use what you got to use. But at the same time, we're seeing the effects of not heeding the warnings 20 years ago. But that shouldn't be political. That should be just, unfortunately, Joyce and I, being teachers firsthand, see how education and knowledge are being, fought against. You're having one a week catch fire at people's homes. Interesting. We certainly aren't having that here. Maybe it's something about Australia. But then again, Artie, I drove with you through Australia. There are cars on fire everywhere, and they're not all electric.
I'm just going to say this, and I'll leave it at that. I've seen my fair share of gas vehicles catch on fire and burn to the ground too.
So, I was a college student working at a drugstore, and somebody says, "Is that a car on fire in the parking lot?" And looked out there. Yep, somebody was having a problem with their engine, and they put the wrong stuff somewhere, and
That'll do.
Oh yeah, Artie. For example, when I was a much younger lad, we used to talk about the ozone layer and how there was a big hole in the atmosphere over Australia. And so we started warning about fluorocarbons. And people go, well, no, people talked about that 40 years ago, and now nobody talks about it. Right, because we banned fluorocarbons and it healed. Go figure. So yes, it improved. The overall climate issue is not improving. It's getting worse. But the ozone layer healed because we reduced the amount of fluorocarbons by 80%. And it allowed that ozone, the hole's still there, but it's a frick of a lot smaller than it was. There was a crisis. We did something about it, and we averted a bigger crisis. Unfortunately, with the phrase climate change, again, it becomes political, and therefore people pay lots of money to fight against the issue there. Yes, electrical fires. And again, I don't tend to run my layout on Saturday streams. This is Artie's show. And someday Artie will come back. Originally, he was promising Halloween, but now it seems it'll be later than that. And we'll just watch a guy go to the bathroom or whatever he was doing there.
That's actually a cooler for water.
Oh, cool. Even better.
Yeah, that's where the railroad keeps their water at. It keeps it cold for the crews.
Well, that's the issue. Electrical fire, it's just like an electrical fire in the home versus a stove fire versus something else. You got to have the right sort of stuff to put the fire out. Electrical fire requires different types of, you're not going to put it out with water, or at least not easily. But be that as it may, again, people will have their reasons to fight against it or reject it, but in the long run, we're going to have to do something different than what we're doing. So, but again, fire departments are probably going to have to learn to carry the other type of stuff as well. Your foams and such. But yeah, like I said, the technology is not 100% there yet. But again, it's not happening all over the place as some people claim. It has happened, sure. But like I said, as Randall pointed out, we've seen gas vehicles catch on fire too. And but like I said, these are things that most people cannot talk about calmly or rationally because they get politicized. And it becomes a liberal versus conservative argument, which only gets in the way of recognizing problems and finding the best way to solve those problems. And unfortunately, the best way to solve a lot of these problems is not to keep doing what we've been doing, because that's what caused the problem. And now that we've got a problem, we've got to find something that everybody or most people can get behind and say, yeah, let's do this. But the problem is we've dragged our feet so long, Attila. We have dragged our feet so long that even if we're getting there slowly, Mother Nature is saying you didn't move fast enough. I might disagree with some of that, but again, the thing is, people might be more willing to do it when the government says, we'll help you. You know, we'll help you with the cost. We will help you do that. When we were getting rid of trains and replacing it with superhighways and cars, gasoline was cheap. Nobody was talking about damaging the environment. We didn't have the pollution. We didn't have the number of cars on the road. We didn't think about it then. We weren't solving a problem when we went with gas cars. We were enjoying a new easy mode of transportation with a new easy highway system. With the electric cars and such, we're trying to deal with the crisis, and of course people are reluctant to change, so the government was trying to encourage. Because if we get into tax dollars and what your tax dollars are doing and what your tax dollars aren't doing, my attitude is fine. My tax dollars will go to that, and your tax dollars can go where you want them to go. In the end, if you're going to have a modern society, you're going to have taxes and you're going to do it. But the problem is, you talk about what Elon's doing, but Elon's been a fraud his entire life. And that will get you into another argument. Elon stands on the shoulders of giants and takes credit for their creations, but all he's done is every time he takes over a company is he streamlines the company and forces them to release a lot of their stuff faster and sooner and before it's been fully tested. And if it goes well at first, he takes the credit. When it goes wrong, it's kept quiet. Hey, big boy, 4014. Yeah, like I said, I have my layout in the background, but I do a Friday show. I do a Friday show where I run my trains and I chat. So I don't tend to run my shows on this Friday. I'm just the sidekick on this show, but the main host of this show has been busy. And I'm actually running way over time, and I think Joyce is.
Yeah, just real quick, Steve 87 with Peace App. If you'd have went back towards the beginning of the stream, we did catch that empty coal train, and so far it's been the only train of the night, and that may or may not be yet till 6 o'clock in the morning. We don't know yet. So I know there's at least 2 tied down.
So, no, I have not run my trains. In fact, my show is already an hour over. I say my show, this show, Artie's show, Wacky Weekend Lite. But yeah, it is after 10 o'clock here, and Joyce is probably wondering where the hell I am. So I should probably, actually, she knows where I am, but she's probably wondering how long am I going to be on. So at the risk of seeing somewhat rude, I don't want to be, but yeah, I'm already, the show's normally only 8 to 9, and it's now 10:15, and it's my bedtime. I'm an old man. I got to go to bed. Yeah, if you want to see my trains and my layout running, Big Boy 4014, you got to come to my Fridays on my Fridays. I don't, like I said, I don't tend to run my trains. I don't run my trains on the Saturday on Wacky Weekend Lite because usually Artie's working on something or building something or showing something, has a story to tell, and I try to keep that. Well, Big Boy, go to my channel and check them out. I have videos of my new models and old models, and occasionally my trains running. I have live streams every Friday where I run my trains for 3 hours.
I don't know if I can put a link in or not, Anthony. I think all I've got is a link to your Matt Clark series. So,
well, the thing is, they can click on to my they can click on to me and
whoops,
check it out. But yeah, do I have any access to my channel here? But here, I'll put it. They can go check my channel out, but maybe they've already seen my channel. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Where we at? Come on, let's go back here. Right here. Yeah, right there.
By the way, Anthony, while you're doing that, I'm sorry I kind of stole your idea for the first impressions video when I put my new video out on my scale trains hypothetical line. I called it a first impressions video, so I kind of stole your idea there for a little bit.
It wasn't my idea either. I mean, there are people doing first glance, first view. I'm sure some channel somewhere else did first impressions. It's not like it's a clever new name. I was just trying to avoid, when I started them, who was doing theirs? Was it New Junction? Richard at New Junction, or somebody was doing something called At First Glance or something like that. Some channel was doing it. So I started calling it First Channels. You're on an 11 hours. Fortunately, I'll actually get plenty of sleep because I'll have an hour extra sleep before you're on. And, but anyhow, please check everybody's channels out. Everybody here's got cool stuff on their channel. Peter Dixon just uploaded a near hour-long video about Getz, and I got to watch the first 10 minutes of it just as he was talking about Joyce and me. He was mentioning Joyce and me, and finally getting over to Getz after a couple of years of trying, and that it was nice to meet us because it was awesome to meet him. And yes, he was kind of laughing at how over the moon I was about everything. I can't help it. I wear my emotions on my sleeve for the most part, and I do react as a kid towards a lot of things because the best reaction is a kid's reaction. You know, when we become adults and we're like, oh, don't get that excited. No, get that excited. Be that happy. Jump up and down and act like a kid. I mean, I'm meeting famous YouTubers from the UK that I've been watching on TV for years, and now I'm meeting them in person. And yeah, I'm like a schoolgirl seeing the Beatles in 1964. It's Peter Dixon. It's Hot Dog Pilot Andy. Okay, I pointed like this. It's Hot Dog Pilot Andy. It's sorry, Andy. Yeah. I don't point up like this to Andy. It is down that way more. But of course, to be honest, I look down on pretty much everybody at Getz. Peter Dixon was about that close to me in height. But yeah, it was great. You got Backman, N-Scale, AT, and SF. That sounds cool. I'll have to check your channel out, Big Boy 4014. Of course, you're named after one of the great locomotives in the world. But anyhow, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, in fact, I couldn't even run trains today because I had no trains on the layout. I already took all the trains from yesterday's live stream off the layout, and because I was rearranging and deciding what trains get stored where, and I spent yesterday and today rearranging everything last night and then through today. So anyhow, I've been saying goodbye for about 7 minutes, so I should probably actually say goodbye. Hey, there's Randall.
Yep.
Hi, Randall.
We're not sitting in the dark.
But yeah, going to Getz. It still is sinking in about, because again, I came home from Getz with the emotional high, but the physical tired. And then I had the cold and then the sinus and bronchitis infections. And I never got a chance to just get home and go, oh my God, I can't believe. So it's only in the last couple of days where I'm healthy again that I'm really thinking about, wow, we just did Getz and people are just now starting to post their videos up. And I don't know if it's ego or not, but I'm looking to see who talks about us. I am curious to see who talks about us and what do they say about us. And some of it is like, you know, I'm waiting for them. Oh, and they were making a big deal about these two assholes from America. And I'm like, we went over to have everybody love us. We want people to like us. Did you freeze? No, you're there. Okay.
No, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm good.
On that note, I better say goodnight because I've babbled 3 minutes longer. So, Randall, thanks for popping up and hanging out.
See you, Anthony.
Always great to have you here. Take care.
Appreciate you letting me come on.
Always welcome here. Always. One of my favorite people on the internet. Someday we got to meet in real life.
We got to do that, yep.
Joy started saying, is there a, where are you specifically at? And maybe we could meet halfway.
I never know. I might take a trip to Springfield. They might send me on some faraway place for a bar. You never can tell. So,
all right. So good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see how many dislikes we get tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye-bye. Bye, Bonds.
See you, Anthony.
Take care, Randall.